Now, the name of this unit is the Cycle of Apostasy, and you really see that cycle portrayed in the book of Judges. In short, the cycle of apostasy looks like this. When you are with God, you are happy.
Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do.
How are you happy? You're winning battles, there's prosperity in the land. But what would happen is that the Israelites started then to stray from God. How did they stray from God? By worshiping the Baals. Now, what's a Baal? A Baal is a generic name given to any type of local god. Typically, it was a fertility god. Get what I'm saying? The Israelites would constantly abandon Yahweh for the god of sex. Now, I've said earlier in this season, this was a fertility-focused society. And that makes sense. If all of your neighbors are worshiping fertility gods, and you're not, if there truly was a fertility god, we'll call him Baal. If Baal truly existed, and the Israelites were not worshiping this Baal, Baal would become angry and curse you with barrenness. If you're cursed with barrenness, that means no crops, that means your animals aren't going to reproduce, that means your family won't reproduce. So the Israelites were not intentionally being malicious against Yahweh, they were just fearful that if there truly was a fertility god, they did not want to offend that god. But with that said, Baal could have been any local god, but typically it was a fertility god. So the Israelites would start worshiping the Baals. And so God became angry, because they're breaking the first commandment, right? And would allow them to get conquered. They get conquered, and now they're suffering. So what happens in times of suffering? That's when people begin to repent. And that's the case with the Israelites. Now they find God. They start crying out to God, God, deliver us. And God would hear the cries of his people and would appoint a judge. God would appoint the judge. And the judge, of course, was a military leader that would help liberate the Israelites from the foreign oppressor and get the Israelites back up on top to be with God. But as the book of Judges teaches us, as soon as that judge died, the Israelites then would relapse and the cycle would happen all over again. In the book of Judges, that cycle occurs 12 times. Why don't they just catch on already? I mean, compare this to the story of the Israelites complaining in the desert over and over again. When are they going to catch on? Well, I'm going to throw this challenge out there to you right now. When are we going to catch on? Because often we fall victim into this cycle of apostasy. It's not till there are times of suffering that we start to reevaluate what is truly important and we go back to God. We ask God to liberate us, we go back to God if we are liberated, and then we start to forget.
Forget.
That cycle of apostasy is a cycle that we still live out today. But what's also interesting about this cycle, this diagram up here, is that if you look over to where we have Judges, eventually that is going to be the role of Jesus. Jesus is going to be that person that's going to be called by God, appointed by God to liberate us, to send us back once and for all to be with God, to save us from sin, our foreign oppressor. And you might be wondering, well, okay, this happens 12 times in the book of Judges because there's 12 judges. Where does the book come to an end? Well, let me answer that question by calling to mind a story that takes place beginning at Judges chapter 19. In Judges 19, there is a Levite and his wife or concubine, depending on the translation of Bible you have, that are traveling through the land of Gibeah. Gibeah belongs to the tribe of the Benjaminites. And they want to stay in the land of Gibeah. They're passing through for one night, and nobody invites them into the house. Now, Jewish law says you need to be hospitable towards the stranger. And the Levite obviously isn't really a stranger. He's still one of the descendants of Jacob.
Well, now we ain't strangers anymore.
But nevertheless, they wait all day. Nobody invites them in. It's not till sunset where one of the citizens of Gibeah says, hey, why don't you come into my house?
You can come stay at my house, strangers.
And you can spend the night. So already this town is a little bit off because they should have been invited into a home earlier in the day. Nevertheless, once they are in this gentleman's house, the townspeople come knocking on his door and they say to the homeowner, produce the Levite so that we can have sex with him. And the homeowner goes, no, that's not a good deal. How about my daughters? You can have my daughter. And the townspeople go, no, we want to have sex with that male Levite. And the homeowner is like adamant, this is not a good idea.
I'd never give you my guest, you wicked, wicked men.
And the Levite just happens to walk by, takes his wife, throws the wife out the front door, closes the door, and then go to bed. The whole town has their way with this wife. The next day, the Levite opens the door, finds his wife lying there, says, get up, we're going, realizes his wife is dead, picks her up, puts her on his donkey, and then proceeds forth to wherever the destination was that he was headed. Once he arrives at the destination, he takes his wife, chops her up into 12 pieces, kind of like a Dexter, chops her up into 12 pieces and sends a piece of her to every tribe in Israel as a declaration of war that says, look at what the Benjaminites did to a fellow Israelite.
Come on, Zeke, we have to go to war with Gibeah. How do you know? Levi sent us afoot.
And the 11 other tribes are like, whoa, this is not a good situation. Let's declare war on the land of the Benjaminites. And what happens in this war, the town is destroyed by fire. You got some connections to the Sodom story of Genesis. The whole town is burned down with fire, obviously. And all the women of the Benjaminite tribe have been killed.
Uh-oh, we might have gone too far. What do you mean? There's supposed to be 12 tribes, not 11.
And so the 11 tribes gather, and they discuss this. Wow, without Benjaminite women, there will be no tribe of Benjaminites. There will be no reproduction. So the tribe of Benjamin will come to an end. Well, this isn't good. God wanted 12 tribes. So what do we do now? I know, let's throw a party.
Is it a party?
We'll throw a party and get everyone drunk at this party. And the Benjaminite men can sneak into the party and kidnap our women. They can kidnap our women and then rape our women. Because Jewish law says if you rape a girl, you got to marry her. Great idea. And that's what happens. The Benjaminite males sneak into this soiree. They kidnap these women. They rape these women. Now they got to marry these women. And now the tribe of Benjamin will continue. Where on this diagram does the book of Judges come to an end? I would say right about there. The Israelites have fallen from God. They haven't repented. There is no judge. They're not in line with the covenant. The Israelites are making their own decisions, right? They choose to declare war against their brother tribe of Benjamin. They decide to kill off all of their women. They decide to throw a party to have the Benjaminite men kidnap their women and rape them so that they can continue. Where is God? God isn't part of this picture. This judge system's a joke. And it's time to put it to an end.